Hey guys, Imperial Silver here today. I have a bit of a different video for you guys today. Unlike most weeks where I would just do coin dono opening, I don't have any coins to open. My package is coming a little late. But thought I'd do a bit of a different video. So yeah, here we are. We're gonna do 5 types of coins people kind of collect. Obviously, this is rough, and there's more categories in this. But I think the best way to do this is probably to do from what now we have now to like the most accessible to the least accessible. That sounds both fair. So first off, we're obviously gonna have just like kind of your generic world coins. You know, there's tons of designs on these. You know, you'll have like this is a Mexican coin. And I think the cool thing about kind of collecting more modern coins is one, they're really cheap. Like you could all these coins probably for like a couple bucks, depending where you go. Max, most of the time places will sell these for like 5 cents. Even like some cooler stuff. This is 1929. This is fairly old. This actually starts to fall into another category we're gonna hit next. And there's like kind of subcategories of this. So like obviously these aren't really all that valuable. So some people might want to do more, like might do silver more modern. Like this is from 1940s. There's a various types of like silver from this time that they might decide. You might even count like some American silver in that period. Like this quarter right here, right? This would probably count as like modern 64, like last year's silver. But that's just what has some value. And they're pretty accessible. They just go for junk silver prices. Maybe you want to do like some war dimes, you know. And I kind of think this is kind of where my second category starts, is kind of more like the US stuff. And I'm putting US in its own category because it's such a different category that I think it really deserves its own spot. So you have like your obvious Morgan dollar here. This isn't too old. This is like 100 years old, which is old, but not excessively old. One sec, guys. I just sorry about that, guys. It was just my my cat was getting a little close there. She's gonna hop up. So, but yeah, it's American coins. So we have like Morgan dollars, you know, your half dollars, Franklin here, and you'll have like Merc dimes, and you have like all the way going back. You can even get some pretty old stuff like 1790s, but it doesn't really go past much farther than that. And that's why I'm kind of putting this in a category, because at the end of the day, American coins are fairly like recent additions to coin collecting in a way. Because coin collecting starts pretty much around like 2,600 years ago, like 600 BC. That's kind of like when you might be able to get your first coin. It's like a Ionian stater, I think. And they're really basic, but either way. So yeah, you have these, and I think the big things about American coin collecting are obviously a lot of it is silver. It's probably one of the more expensive ends. This one kind of holds as a bit of an outlier for being a little bit more modern, but I think it's just because the American side of the hobby is so rich and has so many nice designs. Like they have such, like, I gotta be honest, Mercantile is probably one of my favorite coins. This is even a really nice one. I picked an older one, I didn't even realize. It's a bit more worn. But yeah, there's tons you can pick from. That also kind of holds to these still. Like, yeah, and you have like cool stuff. They have good history, a lot of like American stuff. They have really good designers. They're a little different. That is not focusing up. Because I have to keep it over here. But yeah, so that's kind of like the Americans. I would say like you have the big thing with American coins is like key date hunting and like filling out full folders, where that's not really a big thing with many other sides of the hobby, I would say. Like there's a bit in some other areas, but for the most of the time I would usually count American coin collecting separate from everything else as its own category, just because it has such a hot market. So things like a Morgan dollar, like this one's not a great example, but a rare date in like a crown or something is not going to pull nearly the same price as a crown, like a rare date Morgan. They're so collectible. Yeah, and the nice part about the record too is they're all 90. A lot of them are 90%. So. And I do have one more American I was going to show. This is a little bit more on like the oddity side. So I don't know if it's going to pick up well. Got a new setup, which is nice. Got a little 3-cent silver here. A little tream, as they call them. 1851. And like, this is already like getting pretty much as old as American coins get. Like, another 60 years. But pretty much earlier than this starts to get fairly expensive for most coins. So yeah, but you can get still like oddball stuff. They have 2 cents. They have another 3 cent nickel. I gotta block out the back if I want this to focus on this. Yeah, this is one of my favorites. I do like these. They're so tiny. Look at that. So yep. And give me 1 sec. I'll be right back, guys. I'll just clear this off. Sweet. So for the next category, I would probably call it like, I don't really have a good terminology for this because I don't really know what to call it, but I would say like kind of like 1400s to like you're looking more around like 1800, 1900. So these can range pretty heavily. I have quite a bit of assortment here from all around the world. We can do like newest to oldest, I think. I think this guy's my newest. So this is from 1859. Nice little one cruiser from Frankfurt, Germany. Nice little details. Might be able to get a better details even there for you. So you can get like, I think the cool part about this category, which I'm going to call like kind of like the colonial period, or Renaissance forward period, is that there's so much diversity. A lot of really beautiful designs. I think this is next. So you get like weird stuff like this. So this is from Brazil. That's their flag, and it's been counter-stamped to be 40 reais. I think this was supposed to be like, I think this was like a devaluation or inflation. I love the little coffee bean. Nice big chunky coin. And like the nice part about most of these coins is that these are affordable, unlike the Americans. Like if you get like an 1832 American coin, you're gonna be putting it in your pocket. But this coin is like pretty inexpensive for how cool it is. It's like a $20, maybe $40 coin. Most of these are pretty reasonable. There's a couple that are fairly expensive, like this guy. But that's pretty much it. For like what I would say the value is. Then we have, I guess we'll get this guy out of the way. He's a little different. Like a little Japanese coin here, you know, very unique looking. This is one shoe, SHU, from the Meiji period in Japan. Really tiny little silver coins. They had other square coins. It's the only one I have right now. I'm trying to pick them up. They're not easy to find though. Very different. But these are like fairly inexpensive, and you get like such cool stuff. Like this is like completely, this is really hard to hold. Completely unique. Like I don't have any other coins like this, and you'll find that through this era that there's a lot of unique coins. We'll hit this coin. We have like 5 francs from the Empire of France. This is during Napoleon's era. Here he is right there, Emperor Napoleon. And like this is like a fairly big coin, like 1815. If you got an American coin this size around the time, you were not paying what I paid for this. And this coin has like so much historical value. Like I got this for around $100. And this is like Napoleon. He conquered all of Europe, basically, except for Britain. And yeah, he like ruled the world for a bit, you know, Napoleonic era. Whereas like if I got an American $50 or a full dollar, like from 1813, it'd be so expensive. So that's the nice part about this era. You can get big silver with cool history behind it. Here's like another cool historical one. You know, you have some Spanish silver, 1806. Obviously, this is not like the peak of the Spanish Empire. This is pretty late in it, but you know, it's very obviously Spanish. You have 2 reals up here, and this one was made in Bolivia, I think. Yeah, I think this is Lima. My bad. This is Lima, from Peru. They all have the little mint marks. So you can actually collect all the mint marks of these. That's pretty cool. That's another cool thing. You don't like you can collect other countries' mint marks, which is a neat thing to do, depending on the country. Some are a little bit weirder than others. Like the German mint marks, are a little weird. You can also do like German Empire. There's like various other like. When I say this, like I'm saying kind of like this era of coins to collect, not so much the country. America's just like an exception because it really does hold out separately from the rest of the coins that I'm going to show. Then you have like really big fancy stuff. Like this is 1765 here, and this is from Nuremberg, as it says. It's like the city. It's a little more worn than my others. This is definitely on the high end of stuff, but like the U.S. coins don't even go this far back, right? And This is a huge coin. Like if there was a 1765 coin from America somehow that was like silver and this big, it would be like $1 million. So that's kind of a nice point with these is like you can really collect cool parts of history. They have amazing art, a lot of them. So it really allows you to decide what you want to go with, and usually they're a little bit more affordable. Only thing I would say maybe with world coins is finding them can be a little tricky, and finding resources on them can be a little tricky. And this is like very early era. This starts to almost push into the next era, I would say we're going into. And this is from Brandenburg, and it's 1541, as you can see right here. And yeah, this is like the very beginning of that era. So the coins you can see they're completely different. They're kind of coming from a medieval style, which we'll get into next. But they're still a little bit different. They don't really have as much of a medieval vibe as some of them. I'd say 1500s is kind of like 1415 is kind of the switch over for this type of coinage, and I'd kind of count these going from like 14 to like probably about World War II era. A lot of these coins kind of are similar. If you want to cut out like World War II, maybe just like 1900. I don't know. Depends where you draw your lines, but I usually kind of mix them. And yeah, we'll get into the next era. Let's push these over a little bit more here. Let's get the guy off the screen. There we go. And then the next batch of coins, which I don't have a lot of, this is probably my least collected era because I have a hard time with it, is the medieval era. And the medieval era is usually categorized by coins that kind of like this. This is a Venetian Orio from 1100. This is just before the Fourth Crusade. Give me 1 sec. I'll find the info. Yeah, I found the info. So this is an Orio made under Orio Malipiero. And these have like a pretty distinct look. They kind of have this like writing almost along the side, usually like a really basic kind of look to them. This is kind of very very typical of this era. They're not usually curved. This is kind of a Venetian thing, but this is kind of like the typical like medieval coin, I would say. It's kind of a little bit very, very crude and like looks usually very basic writing. They're just kind of recovering from the collapse of the ancient Roman Empire and really good monetization. There is a couple exceptions to this. Obviously, I'm kind of saying more so Europe from all these also. I didn't really think about that, but a little over 100 years later, the Venetians had gone to Constantinople and taken a lot of their culture with them, and you get a little bit more distinguished coins from like the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire there. And this is Venetian, but it really holds that style. And you can kind of see it's got a lot more flavor to it. It is a higher quality kind of a look to it. This is definitely like a lot fancier of a look. You can actually discern what this is a lot easier. This is a bit of a fancier coinage. I don't think this is worth a bit more, but still, like, this is definitely a step up. And I'd say like the medieval coins, they have like a lot to go for them. They're not usually too expensive. They can be a little bit more just because they're aged and they're a little harder, I find, to really preserve. The nice things about this, though, is this area covers such a wide range of history. You get some really cool states. You can get Crusader state coins. This pretty much goes from like the fall of the Western Roman Empire from like around 500 to pretty much around like what I would say is 1400, around there. Kind of weighing slowing in between various areas. Like obviously, the Roman Empire, Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantines don't really count because I usually count them as their own category almost in this era. They're more studying classical because this is distinctly different than this. But at the end of the day, this is kind of what you're looking at, and these are like kind of the exceptions of this era. But it covers such a wide range of history. So many countries really start to form this area. The English coins are pretty cool. You can get like all the old kings, Edwards. The English coins are quite nice from this era. So yeah, it's a nice era to collect coins that aren't going to be too expensive. But I usually wouldn't expect people to like outside the hobby to really think these coins are like Crusader coins are a little drabby in my opinion, and they're usually very minimal. But they're a very cool part of history. So if they're your thing, then I salute you because they're not super my thing. And then we kind of our last category, which I would say is ancient. You know, and this kind of falls into like a couple of categories, but the main categories it falls into is Rome, kind of Greeks, and everybody else. It's so like for Roman coins, you're kind of looking at stuff like this, and these are mostly denarius. This is the centenarius, and this is a phallus, I think, if I'm remembering right. You have all the emperors on them, and this covers such a wide. And these coins are so old, which makes them very interesting. So this is Hadrian here, and he reigned in the. He was one of the 5 good emperors in the 2nd century. So, these coins are just so old. They hold so much history. So, it's very cool to see them. These coins hold history. They're not cheap usually. I will say that. This is Elegabalus from the early kind of side there. Not early, but really nicely preserved. And there's like a whole bunch of emperors to collect. There's 70 emperors in the Western Roman Empire alone. Like I think, or something like that. They have different coins. They have coppers too. I just don't have any myself. There's like a big coin called Nos, and various coins, quadrants, all those. So you can really collect tons of these, and they're not too bad for a lot of them. Like for these really nice guys, I'd say you might be able to get them under 100 if you keep your eyes open pretty reasonably. Maybe even some of the more common emperors like $50. Wow, this is really not focusing. It doesn't like when I have that there, hey? So they're like a little higher, but these guys aren't too bad. If you're going to like the big coppers, those are pretty expensive, or rare emperors, they can get very expensive. But it's just rarity over the time, right? So if an emperor ruled for a month, which has happened quite a bit actually in Roman history, or like a year, they're going to have less valuable coins. If they ruled for a long time, like this is a coin from Antonius Pius. This was his wife Faustinia the Elder. They're going to be a little cheaper to collect, even if they're like, this is a nice coin. Like for being almost 2,000 years old, this coin is quite impressive. Other thing about ancient coins is cleaning is not. You won't find unclean coins really in the same way. That's not really a thing with ancient coins, because most of them were pulled out of the dirt and look like mud. So. And yeah, that's kind of what I would say. They're kind of range a lot the Roman coins, but Rome was the only ancient country out there. It's just like the main one. Most ancient collectors have like 1 or 2 of these. You can do sets. There's 5 good emperors, which these 2 are part of actually, and maybe you might want to do like all the emperors, which is 70, or maybe you want to do all the Eastern emperors. There's a lot to do, but there is no other countries around, and I don't have any. What I would call like what the Romans called barbarian or like Persian coins, but those also exist at the time. They tend to kind of follow similar rules more to the Romans. I know the barbarian nations can be a little expensive because they make a lot of coins, but usually aren't super collectible. And then you have like Greek coins, and these guys are probably the most expensive margins out of the ancients, and maybe the whole thing, maybe besides like the American coins, because they can get pretty inexpensive. There still is cheaper ones, like this coin from Pontus, which could maybe not be called Greek, but I would usually call it Greek. And this is like a gorgon on a shield. It's supposed to ward off. I showed this off in one of my other videos. And this is like Nike. The gorgon's supposed to ward off kind of like evil, because they're kind of like turn people to stone. Kind of a good sign though if you have one on your shield, makes your enemies go to stone. And this is Nike, the god of victory. But this was like not too bad. This probably falls in the category more similar to like the Romans, where it's like the Greek bronzes aren't too bad. I don't know if you can get really expensive Greek bronzes, but they tend to be fairly reasonable, most Greeks. So that is a nice point. And there's a lot of little city-states and stuff. Like you have like, we have a coin here from Istros. This is Pontus. You might have like, there's like tons of Greek states. And then you have like the very obvious Alexander the Great coins. So this is Hercules with the Numerian lion on him. And he made these during his conquests of the known world at that point, and after his death, a lot of his people followed him. This is from Amphialus. I'm butchering that. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but I know it's like it's in Macedon, Greece. Yeah, and these aren't too bad. They're fairly expensive. This is probably one of the more expensive coins I've shown so far. I think this is. Yeah. But you can get sizable Greek coins. They're kind of characterized by this like kind of chunkiness. I find they really like to do chunky coins with like these big kind of like stamps where you can kind of see Alexander looking at you, or Hercules, I guess. Some people think this is Alexander's face a little bit, but yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like the thing with these. These are pretty expensive. If you're getting into this, I would say make sure you are ready to drop a couple bucks to get nicer examples, because you're going to appreciate having better examples than bad examples. And then after Alexander, you have his successor kingdoms. These can get pretty high, especially for like this one. This is the most expensive coin by far. So keep in mind that like some of these coins are going to be out of people's budgets. Like this coin is going to be out of most people's budgets. This was barely in mine. I got a good deal on this. But like the details from these guys are just cool. So you have, various Greek states. This is from the Ptolemaic Egypt. You have like Seleucids. You have like Hessimius. And you have other Greek states at the time still making coins until like the Romans come in and kind of bulldoze them over. But yeah, they can be just gorgeous. This coin is pretty neat looking. You can really try to make his face. He's a pretty interesting looking dude. Kind of ugly in a way. Yeah, if you're looking to get these, make sure you have extra money to spare. And then we have like the oldest coin in this yet, and this is Stater from Istros, a little Greek city-state in the Black Sea, so kind of where like I think modern-day Ukraine is. We have two faces here. I think they're supposed to be in time, like one's facing back into the past, one's facing forward to the future. And this is like from 450 BC. And this coin is basically 2,500 years old, which is kind of nutty. Like, I know it doesn't look crazy preserved, but you gotta be pretty impressed when this is like older and literally everything around you, probably even like the invention of most things around, like wherever you're watching this, unless you're outside, and then trees obviously kind of been around, but we didn't invent those. The wheel maybe, but like not cars. I don't even know if pencils are really around yet. So it's kind of impressive to have coins this old. And there's tons of little Greek city-states. These do tend to kind of go high for like the size and stuff. So kind of with the Greeks, I would say like make sure you're well prepared for kind of a big hit. Otherwise, you're not gonna enjoy this hobby for the Greek side. It's kind of ancient coins. The Celts and like the Greek, the Persians also have coins, but they kind of fall in a different category. I will say there's two special categories here. And that would be kind of like what I would call mint stuff. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of this. This one's a little bit more sentimental to me, though. I got this as a gift. And these are nice, but I think these are kind of hard unless you get them for like not from the stores themselves. Because this coin, if I bought this at the store, I think it's $100. I can probably sell this quickly for like 20. Like it's hard to find buyers for these type of coins. They don't really have the intrinsic value a lot of stuff does. I don't also think they're going to really hold that value in the future, sadly. Just because the way a lot of mints do stuff on these, they kind of spam them out very quickly. They have really nice silver work, right? Like this is a beautiful coin, but like they made a lot of these, and they make tons of versions of these. So I don't really know if they're going to hold a lot of value in like 50, 100 years. So if you're trying to like invest, maybe avoid these. But if you like a pretty coin or set, maybe go for it. They look really nice on display. They'll usually give like a box with them. So I have like a little box here. Sorry. And you have a little certificate there, and you can kind of set it up. It'd make really nice displays. They look really good on display. But personally, they're not super my cup of tea. And then my last section that I would kind of say that kind of falls in here a little bit Maybe not as much as others. I gotta find what I just had here. There it is. Is more like tokens kind of stuff. So this one's a little weird. But I find these sometimes fall into our same coin category. And these are like sales tokens. It's very stuffed. So this is like during Great Depression, you didn't want to pay a cent of tax. You want to pay like half a cent or something. So they made all these little tokens. I have another one here. And I'll grab this. There we go. Kind of my 3 tokens I kind of have. You know, it's another little tax token. You can, and these are really varied. I wouldn't usually count these, but I find these, you end up with these if you're in the coin hobby, if you buy mixed lots. It's like a presidential campaign token, so this would be handed out, 1840. It's kind of cool, actually. He didn't win. I can't remember what this guy's name is. But yeah, and these can vary. They can be like very nice, or they could be like very not nice. Like most of those are pretty cheap, and I wouldn't really attribute much value to them. But you can also get really nice token stuff like this. It's from 1927, yeah. This is just like a commemorative medal for Paul von Hindenburg, some German chancellor at the time. And you get some really nice token designs. And I think the biggest thing to take away from this is that it's not really based, like, don't worry too much about, like, getting coins that you think are going to be, the best thing ever. Just make sure you get coins that, you like. So whether that's going to be, like, like a really modern kind of coin like these, maybe just silver, or, maybe you want to do, like, just American stuff, you're just like, gotta love me some American silver. Maybe you want to collect, like, some, world country stuff. Maybe you want to collect, like, some Spanish stuff, you want that pirate silver. Maybe you want some Romans, or maybe you want to have, like, a big Greek, these are all, like, good, like, methods, I think, for collecting, and I think they all have their, like, personalities. Modern coins obviously being, like, cheap and fairly reasonable to get. These also, I would say, just basic silver. America kind of wishy-washy between a lot of the values on these, so keep that in mind. But very collectible, very fun to collect. You have your kind of world coinage, which it's kind of like a more this almost, but these tend to not have like the key date stuff, so you don't have to worry about that as much. And you get a lot more like designs and stuff, obviously. If you're ancients, which kind of have the history. Oh, I didn't put the medievals on. My bad. Your medieval coins, which they also have like their own histories and stuff, but they're more about like that kind of like those countries really coming together. I find that's kind of like the coolness of the medieval era. Like you're really getting kings forming the countries that we know today, like Spain, France. France is kind of more reformed, but like England, this is kind of their formative period. So you really get some of those leaders that are like kind of the foundations of their countries and the morals. And you have the Romans, which is obviously the background for like this, and the Greeks, and there is like a whole bunch of like Asian culture stuff too. Like and these are going to be fairly different. Like I don't have a huge Asian or African collection, and these are obviously going to have very different attributes than the typical. I guess this is technically African, but I wouldn't usually really. It's Greek. These coins are technically going to be very unique in the aspect that they're very different. A lot of them, they're all going to have their own unique things. I'm not saying like just collect these eras. I'm saying like make sure you collect what you want to collect. You can collect a varied stuff. I collect quite varied. If I had to say what I really collect, it's probably like these 2 eras kind of the most. I do like American silver, but I have a hard time doing key date prices. Sorry, that's my cats having a fight apparently. So yeah, and you gotta do what you like. So if you want to collect all the varieties, and the big thing is to keep collecting. If you're investing, maybe avoid these. These are probably the least valuable, I would say. The rest of these are fairly like invest, like especially this like the plain silver. These are probably going to be like your better ones up here, just because you don't have to pay the premiums that you do on the rest of these. Like this Denars is not worth its silver, and these guys just aren't. These can be. You can get like world silver pretty reasonably too. I'd say like these 3 then. So yeah, and then that's basically it. Collect what you like. Make sure if you're collecting for investment, maybe these. If you're collecting more for fun or just getting in, these are like great. And yeah, besides that, guys, keep collecting. Try and have some fun collecting. Send me some of the coins you collect.